Hey y'all, this is Cam again. So this is for the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action for Iran's nuclear program. If you've watched any of the other videos about Iran's nuclear program, I mean, they put this in place under the Obama administration, but it was also between several European countries. France, Russia, China also was in there. Great Britain, the USA. It was like the EU plus three, and you'll see that a bunch of times in here. But anyway, this is going to be pretty short. I'm only going to do maybe like 5 pages of this because it's a lot of pages. So, anyway, Annex I or 1 nuclear related issue or measures. 8 general. 1, the sequence of implementation of the commitments detailed in this annex is specified in Annex 5 to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Unless otherwise specified, the durations of the commitments in this annex are from implementation day. B, ARAC Heavy Water Research Reactor. Iran will modernize the ARAC Heavy Water Research Reactor to support peaceful nuclear research and radioisotopes production for medical and industrial purposes. Iran will design and rebuild the reactor based on the agreed conceptual design as attached to this annex to support its peaceful nuclear research and production needs and purposes, including testing of fuel pins and assembly prototypes and structural materials. The design will be such as to minimize the production of plutonium and not to produce weapon-grade plutonium in normal operation. The power of the redesigned reactor will not exceed 20 megawatts. Hold on, I did that. So it's a thermal megawatt is what that MWTH means. The E3 or EU plus 3 and Iran share the understanding that the parameters in the conceptual design are subject to possible and necessary adjustments in developing the final design while fully preserving the above mentioned purposes and principles of modernization. 3, Iran will not pursue construction at the existing unfinished reactor based on its original design and will remove the existing calandria and retain it in Iran. The calandria will be made inoperable by filling any openings in the calandria with concrete, such that the IAEA can verify that it will not be usable for a future nuclear application. In redesigning and reconstructing of the modernized ARAC heavy water research reactor, Iran will minimize the use of existing infrastructure already installed at the current ARAC research reactor. Iran will take the leadership role as the owner and as the project manager and have responsibility for overall implementation of the ARAC modernization project, with E3 and EU plus 3 participants assuming responsibilities regarding the modernization of the ARAC reactor as described in this annex. A working group composed of E3 and EU plus 3 participants will be established to facilitate the redesigning and rebuilding of the reactor. An international partnership composed of Iran and the working group would implement the ARAC modernization project. The working group could be enlarged to include other countries by consensus of the participants of the working group in Iran. E3 and or EU plus 3 participants in Iran will conclude an official document expressing their strong commitments to the ARAC modernization project in advance of implementation day, which would provide an assured path forward to modernize the reactor and would define the responsibilities assumed by the E3 and EU plus 3 participants, and subsequently contracts will be concluded. The participants of the working group will provide assistance needed by Iran for redesigning and rebuilding the reactor, consistent with their respective national laws, in such a manner as to enable the safe and timely construction and commissioning of the modernized reactor. 5. Iran and working group will cooperate to develop the final design of the modernized reactor and the design of the subsidiary laboratories to be carried out by Iran, and review conformity with international safety standards such that the reactor can be licensed by the relevant Iranian regulatory authority for commissioning and operation. The final design of the modernized reactor and the design of the subsidiary laboratories will be committed to the Joint Commission. The Joint Commission will aim to complete its review and endorsement within 3 months after the submission of the final design. If the Joint Commission does not complete its review and endorsement within 3 months, Iran could raise the issue through the dispute resolution mechanism envisaged by this JCPOA. The IAEA will monitor the construction and report of the working group for confirmation that the construction of the modernized reactor is consistent with the approved final design. As the project manager, Iran will take responsibility for the construction efforts. E3/EU plus 3 parties will, consistent with their national laws, take appropriate administrative, legal, technical, and regulatory measures to support cooperation. E3 or EU plus 3 parties will support the purchase by Iran, the transfer and supply of necessary materials, equipment, instrumentation, and control systems and technologies required for the construction of the redesigned reactor through the mechanism established by this JCPOA, as well as through exploration of relevant funding contributions. E3 or EU plus 3 parties will also support and facilitate the timely and safe construction of the modernized Arak reactor and its subsidiary laboratories upon request by Iran through IAEA technical cooperation if appropriate, including but not limited to technical and financial assistance, supply of required material and equipment, state-of-the-art instrumentation and control systems, and equipment and support for licensing and authorization. The redesigned reactor will use up to 3.67% enriched uranium in the form of UO2 with the mass of approximately 350 kilograms of UO2 and a full core load, with the fuel design to be reviewed and approved by the Joint Commission. The international partnership with the participation of Iran will fabricate the initial fuel core load for the reactor outside Iran. The international partnership will cooperate with Iran, including through technical assistance to fabricate, test, and license fuel fabrication capabilities in Iran for subsequent fuel core loads for future use with this reactor. Destructive and non-destructive testing of this fuel, including post-irradiation examination or PIE, will take place in one of the participating countries outside of Iran, and that country will work with Iran to license the subsequent fuel fabricated in Iran for the use in the redesigned reactor under IAEA monitoring. Iran will not produce or test natural uranium pellets, fuel pins, or fuel assemblies, which are specifically designed for the support of the originally designed Arak reactor, designated by the IAEA as IR-40. Iran will store under IAEA continuous monitoring all existing natural uranium pellets and IR-40 fuel assemblies until the modernized Arak reactor becomes operational, at which point these natural uranium pellets and IR-40 fuel assemblies will be converted to UNH or exchanged with an equivalent quantity of natural uranium. Iran will make the necessary technical modifications to the natural uranium fuel production process line that was intended to supply fuel for the IR-40 reactor design, such that it can be used for the fabrication of the fuel reloads for the modernized ARAC reactor. All spent fuel from the design or redesigned ARAC reactor, regardless of its origin for the lifetime of the reactor, will be shipped out of Iran to a mutually determined location in E3 or EU plus three countries or third countries for further treatment or disposition as provided for in relevant contracts to be concluded, consistent with national laws, with the recipient party within 1 year from the unloading from the reactor or whenever deemed to be safe for transfer by the recipient country. Iran will submit the DIQ of the redesigned reactor to the IAEA, which will include information on the planned radioisotope production and reactor operation program. The reactor will be operated under IAEA monitoring. Iran will operate the fuel manufacturing plant only to produce fuel assemblies for light water reactors and reloads for the modernized ARAC reactor. Let me go ahead and stop it. I don't want to keep going. Just had to kind of cut this one short, but I'll keep recording probably in the next few days or so, since we're still dealing with this Iran Israel stuff. But anyway, I will talk to y'all later. Y'all have a good afternoon. I'll see you hopefully sometime tomorrow. But anyway, see y'all. Bye.